Let's wrap up the second week of July. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. I am Trinity, this is Portable Magic, and I will be wrapping up the second week of July. I have one book to completely gush about, and that would be The Bound Worlds by Megan E. O'Keefe. Hello, what an ending to this series. Absolutely loved it. I cried, guys. There's a book I cried in. So whenever I get to my end of the year wrap up and I say no book makes me cry, I lied because this one did. This is the conclusion to one of my favorite sci-fi series, actually probably my favorite sci-fi series of all time. We have romance, we have betrayal, we have a stupid character that I didn't want to fall in love with, that I did. How dare you, Megan E. O'Keefe, make me love this person. But it's one of those, like, fall for the villain, and then the villain turns out to be not as bad as you thought, and then you love them even more. But I won't go too far into that because I don't want to spoil anything. But absolutely amazing ending. I can't, 5 stars. 5 stars. I love this. I have heard some criticism for the book, and I totally understand where some people would be like, okay, that was a little convoluted, and I get it. But the way that Megan E. O'Keefe set all of this up, I think it makes sense in the world. But the stakes in this are so high, so incredibly high, and it moves so fast. Now, Megan E. O'Keefe, I don't know if you guys have ever read anything by her, but the chapters in this are supremely short. I think she did this to keep the pace going because you're in Narya's POV and in Tarquin's POV. And then we do get some chapters that are from other people and other characters, but I can't tell you who because that's also spoilery. But it keeps the pace of the story going, even though at points they are separated, and at points Tarquin, Narya, and some other characters are thinking on very different wavelengths. And it's so hard to talk about this book without spoiling things. But let me just say, it's an absolutely fantastic conclusion. And if you haven't read anything by Megan E. O'Keefe, I would definitely say read this series. There is a heavy romance plot in this. However, it is vital to the telling of this story. So I think that if you're put off by romance, maybe not try this series. But if you can handle romance, it makes this story so good because we have 2 factions that are fighting, and it's very much like a Romeo and Juliet type of setup where they should not like each other, not at all, and their families fight. Like, they hate each other, yet somehow these 2 find love. And so it's so good. It's so good. And there are so many different things about this book that I love. The world building is insane. The creatures that we end up running into quite often, they're horrific, but there's so many elements. It's so hard to talk about this book. I loved it. That's all you need to know. As for what else I read, let me say, I have had some PMDD, and that makes my brain just not want to do anything. It makes me mad at everybody and everything. So I was going to pick up The Women by Kristen Hanna, and I was afraid that if I did, I would start crying and not stop, because PMDD is like that. I don't know if you guys know anybody who deals with PMDD, and I'd encourage you to look it up if you don't know what it is, because you might be surprised to know that you have someone in your life who deals with it. But that pushed me to read things that would make me happy. So I read You Again, which is a Raylo, or was a Raylo fan fiction that got published, and it was pretty good. Now, I want to reiterate that I'm having some PMDD issues. I gave this 4 stars. There's a good chance if I'd read it at any other time, I would have given it a 5. But we have 2 people who can't seem to stay away from each other. They keep running into each other for various reasons. And then when things go to crap for both of them, they decide, hey, we keep running into each other. We are fated to be friends at least. Can we just be each other's support system through this crappy time? They do that, and both of them catch feelings in doing all of this, but neither one of them is really wanting a relationship because of their past. Now, our male main character definitely falls first. And when our female character realizes this, she tucks and runs. But it turned out to be a really, really good story and a pretty good romance. But like I said, I don't know if it was my PMDD going, I hate everything and everyone, but you know, it filled the gap. It filled the void in my mind that I needed filled, and it made me happy. Okay, and then I finally read The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. Again, this is going to be in my Patreon vlog, so I don't want to go into too much detail until after that has been posted for my patrons. I liked this one. I liked this one. I still was kind of in the whole brain funk. I still kind of am, let's just be honest, okay? And I felt like this one was really slow. Now, I don't think I realized this was like a precursor to Camelot. I thought we were going to play with the elements of Camelot a little bit and then kind of throw some like Outlander vibes in, because that's kind of how it's pitched. But I didn't realize we were going to get like a prequel to the Arthurian legend until I heard Uther Pendragon, and then I was like, oh, this is where we are in the story. This is what's happening. This is who these people are. Totally get it now, totally get it. But it took 3/4 of the book for me to realize this. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, well, that makes a whole lot more sense. I was not getting the Arthurian ties. I was understanding that we were in one of the Druids' POVs, but was not understanding how this related to Camelot. I thought it was very loosely set in a Camelot-like world. And I was okay with that. And then the Uther Pendragon thing came up, and I was like, okay, I get it now. And I liked it a little bit more from that point on. I am confident in giving this, again, 4 stars, because while the pacing was a problem for me, I do feel like that was my PMDD just wanting to move through something, and this is very slow. But I did like the characters, I did like the whole setup, I did like the Camelot-esque feel to it, and I love Arthurian stories, so this was just kind of like a little breath of fresh air between all of my other reads. Kind of gave me a sense of like nostalgia for the stories that I know and love, but gave me a little something extra with it being like a prequel to the Camelot legend. Very highly recommend. And then I read Slaying the Shadow Prince. This was the one that I was like, okay, let's just read some romance. Let's read some dark romance, or not dark romance, but you know, dark fantasy romance. And I have read Blood and Steel, so I was like, Legends of Thesmar, come on, let's go. And this one I liked. I didn't love it. I know there's a lot of people who really love this. I'm not of the same mindset. It was good, but it did put me to sleep a couple of times when I was reading it. It got pretty slow in a couple parts, and I was like, okay, can we just move on? But the couple in here is really good. I love the enemies to lovers in this one because it gives true enemies to lovers vibes from the get-go, with them at least. And there's very good reasons for their enemies to, or them being enemies. And getting to know, I can't even remember his name. Wilder is stuck in my head because of Legends of Thesmar, but Wilder is there, by the way. He's just not the main character. And anyway, the main male character in this, I loved his personality. Totally loved his personality. He's a guy that I could fall for. And the whole shadow daddy thing, I guess that's what people call it. I get it. I totally get it. But the main female character in here is also really good, and she has a lot of agency, where in a lot of fantasy romance, the female characters lack a little agency. She's her own person, and she has her own power. She's not relying on dude bro to save her. And actually, he's kind of relying on her a little bit to save himself. But it's good. I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as I liked Blood and Steel, and I still need to continue on with that series. And I really like Wilder. So I'm excited to see him in light of what happened in this book. Like, in my mind, I want to kind of go back and reread Blood and Steel. But I'm also excited to continue because I already know what happens in Blood and Steel. And this is kind of like a prequel to that series, but it makes me understand why Wilder is so willing to listen to things that maybe most people wouldn't, and be really understanding of certain circumstances. That's all I can say without spoiling things, but I thought this was good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I didn't love it, but a pretty dang good story. Oh, and then I read The Faithless Hawk. I love Margaret Owen, guys. Love Margaret Owen. I'm so just, she's an auto-buy author for me now. Having read The Merciful Crow and The Faithless Hawk, oh my gosh, an explosive ending. Absolutely explosive ending. I did not see the twists and turns coming in this. It's a fairly dark YA fantasy, but I mean, I don't even know what I can tell you because this starts off with something so big happening that anything would be a spoiler. But The Merciful Crow follows this girl who is a lower caste in society. They're called the Crows, and the Crows' job is to collect plague victims, burn the bodies, all that stuff, because they are immune to the plague. And in this world, they are looked down on. And she is doing everything she can to help the Crows to rise back up. They didn't always have this darkness attached to them, this society looking down on them and all that stuff. It didn't used to be that way. And so she wants to bring them back into their heyday. And a lot of things go wrong. So the first thing that goes wrong in the book is she goes to take care of this body who's caught the plague. It just happens to be the prince of the kingdom. And she's a little nervous because this is like her first royal that she's had to take care of. And then she's sent out from the room where she's supposed to be performing this rite, and her dad takes over. And they leave, collect their alms, whatever, their teeth, because they are bone magicians. But they leave, and the cart is not a dead body. It is the body of the prince, but he's very much alive. And he's trying to escape the palace and the queen because he's figured out that there is something off and something is about to go down and he does not want to be a part of it. So sorry if I keep breaking up, like my words keep breaking up or I keep losing track. My dog is over here and he's determined to have attention and is now moving the tripod and making huffing noises. But The Faithless Hawk was so good, so good. And the ending got me. It got me. I didn't cry, but I was like, oof. And it does have a happy ending, just so you guys know. I want you guys to be aware of that. All right, that is it for my video today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.